I
All right.
got you.
You guys good?
Yeah, just as always, just let
Yeah,
me know. Did you
let's
already
do
set
it.
it
Let's do
up?
it.
We are good to go. Yes, I did already set it up.
Oh wow.
And we're started.
All right, dope sauce. So definitely thought the way Chad did when he was talking about this in the text chain a bunch of times on how we all need to sit in on this. Because when I read this, I just felt like it was very up our alley. It was an interesting read too. So I know it was long, but it was good stuff. So oh, I don't even remember the title of the art. Does anybody remember?
They tried to start a church without God. For a
There it is.
while, it worked.
Oh, I wrote that on my notes.
The
All right, what
Atlantic.
was it? The Atlantic? Oh, there you go.
It is the Atlantic.
Yeah, it was a solid piece. I feel like we've talked a bunch of times on here about like purpose in life and stuff. And I think I've at least said, I think that there's a lot of aspects of religion that like are tough, but to put it mildly.
Are tough.
But like it's a good way to get a bunch of people together, for whatever cause it is. It was still getting people together and like getting people to interact. You know what I'm saying? And there's
Without
not
a religious foundation.
religion without a religious foundation. What?
Oh, I thought you were talking
Oh,
about the
you talking about
secular
this article?
choices.
No. I'm just saying like in the past we've talked like
Oh, sure.
yeah.
The value of like
And I
communities.
feel like in the past, yeah, I feel like in the past I've articulated like the value that religion had in bringing people together. No doubt. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying?
Yep.
So it was, I mean, it was first, like, it was no surprise to me that this had been tried. I'm sure I've read and heard about it before. I'm sure we all have, like, in one way or another, just some sort of like secular gathering of people. Um, like, I don't know. I don't want to say on a weekly basis, but like, I guess you could say bars are that almost a little bit, but, um, like, I'm sure we all either knew or assumed that stuff like this goes on. And it was interesting to me that like as a bunch of secular people try to come together just to gather on a weekly basis, um like in the piece it was saying that they had a tough time keeping people together cuz like that's not surprising to me, especially as you foray into like um I don't know, just secular world, in the sense that there's nothing keeping you there like a church does, right? Like
Yeah, well, so a
if
church
they
has
tell you you're
its
going to hell, then you're going to have more of a motivation to stay there, you know.
church has more of a set format
And
as
so,
well. Like you have
yeah.
your rituals, you do your singing, you read your passage, you discuss
Well,
it.
and it's for a purpose too. Like
Sure.
the clear thing that came out of this article is like they had a tough time. So they all did this because they wanted to interact and they wanted to find a purpose, but like in the pursuit of it, kind of that was what killed them. There wasn't like there is it's kind of it's just realistic, and it's realistic to say that like there is created purpose in scaring people or like saying this is what it is. And do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know.
I slightly disagree. I think that
Yeah.
I think it started with this purpose of scaring people, 1,000 years ago or however long religion,
Yeah.
quote unquote, has been around. I feel like
Yeah.
today it's more rooted in just traditional values and ideas as opposed to like what people see as like
Well,
heaven and hell. Because like people view themselves
That's
as good
yeah.
in a
That's
sense,
fine.
but they're not really like specific.
Yeah.
Well, my point in saying that is that what you're fighting against, if you try to format something like a church, for example, you're fighting
Yeah.
against tradition. You're not fighting against
mm-hmm.
like religion in the sense of religion, right? Like look at grandma.
Mhm.
Grandma wants to go to church. Why? Because that's what she did as a kid. Like that's really where it stems from. And of course, to Cyril's point, that stems from 1,000 years of a church telling you you're going to die and go to hell unless you come to
Well,
church.
yeah.
So to me, the idea of having like a secular quote unquote church is more akin, because you're not going to be like church. It's just not going to be a thing. It's going to be more like a loosely group of affiliated people that tend to come around a common thing. Right. I use us
Yeah,
and
right.
all of our
Yeah.
collective friends as an example. Right. I don't spend every day hanging out with Tim. I don't see Tim every Sunday. But when I do see Tim, right, there's a kinship that I have with him, although I am not as deep a friend as Cyril is. That right there, in and of itself, is kind of like the idea of having a secular group of people joined for the purpose of
So
just, right,
yeah, but if
friends
that
and
already
whatnot.
yeah, but if that already happens, then why even attempt to do what these people did in creating like a secular church kind of gathering thing?
It's a little different because church is more intimate. Like, if you were to see Tim every Sunday morning at the same time and you guys were to play basketball, that would be more of an intimate sort of friendship than what you have going right now, you know?
Right, but
Yeah,
that's my
but
point
we're also there because
too.
we
Hold
want to
on.
be there. Sure.
Right, but when I use that example specifically, right, I can do it in a different way. For example, I know Alex's uncle, her uncle Billy, plays basketball at the YMCA like every Monday morning or some crap with the same
Sure.
guys. Right, so
Right.
in some sense, it's similar to what you're talking about. Now the difference is that it's a bit more, in my opinion, of a loosely held thing. Right, even at church, you had those families in which your families were closer with than other families within said church, right?
You kind of lost me.
Well, so I guess I'm just trying to make like the similar argument, if you will, between how Tim and I would be, quote unquote friends, as opposed to the way Cyril and Tim are friends, right? It's significantly different, although
Mm-hmm.
we hang out in loosely a similar group of people. So my point is that instead of trying to turn this into something that's like church, right? The better idea, in my opinion, would be to set it up in a way where it's more like I've talked about this before, like a tribe, like a loosely group of affiliated people in which you have the same goal, and that is at least for us, right, is to just enjoy life and enjoy spending time with people that you have fun with. Whereas church, you're spending time around people who also believe that if you don't do this, you'll go to hell, and also enjoy spending time with each other. Like there's that extra bit of
Right.
there is. I mean,
It's
is
a
that?
different
I guess that's the way I
context.
see it.
No, I
Right, it's
mean, you're
slightly
not
different
wrong.
context, but you're not bound by a handbook, if you will.
Yeah, the difference
creed.
is
Right.
the difference is in one lifestyle we're going and doing things based on what we want to do, and that can take us in many different directions throughout our lives. In
Right.
religion, it's just like, nah, you're just here, dog, like, or else you're gonna burn.
Okay.
You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
is
So,
he wrong? Is
well,
Cyril
some of them,
wrong?
not all, but
I was going to say some, not all. Although, if you include the church that we grew up with, that is certainly the case. But that's neither here nor there.
I think the difference for secular, for
So why
people
did
who
it fail?
want to have,
Why did this fail?
it failed. It failed because, in my opinion, they're trying to frame it like a religion, and
No, they're
it's
trying
not.
to frame it like a
it just
church. So, like, take all the good
Okay.
aspects of church, community, togetherness, meeting once a week,
right.
and then remove any sort of religion. That's what they wanted. Because you can't
Correct.
argue against the fact that there was something, even growing up with the bullshit that we had to deal with, there were still appealing aspects of church. You know, because there is that sense of community, and there is that just like once a week, Sunday morning, I'm going to see, some people that I like. Not
yeah,
everyone, but some people.
Yeah, most people that I dislike. But some
I
people
think
that I like.
I think the mistake here is that they framed it to be like church. Like you can't take something that's
No,
not
I agree with
church,
that. I agree.
put it in,
Yeah, but then,
or
but
try
my
to
point
frame it
is,
that way.
yeah, my point is, I mean, there's already places you can go and stuff, and like,
Right. Go to a show. Go to a pub. Go to a
Right.
bar. Go to the park. Go
Join
to
a men's
there's
soccer
Right.
league.
right. Go
Right.
to yoga. Go to your gym. I mean, there's tons of places to go.
Right,
But the
there's something-
difference is that. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, there's like, so with church, and I think with what they tried to do was there's also just sort of this call to something greater, right? Like when you're playing soccer, it's because you all love soccer, you know.
Mhm.
But when everybody's going to church, it's because there's some greater thing outside of themselves that they want to address or interact with or something. So I think that's
Yeah.
where these secular people are trying to go, but then they can't really
Listen,
agree on
there's
what
a
that greater thing should be. They all have like disagreements about what it should. I don't know, because there's no dogma. This is the
yeah.
problem with secular
There's a
beliefs. There's no dogma. There's no book.
there's
There's no creed.
there's a meetup app for everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could probably download the app that's like find Green Bay Packers singles in your air Green Bay Packer
FarmersOnly.com.
fan
Shout
team.
out to
You know what I'm saying? Like
FarmersOnly.com.
stupid shit like that.
Right.
Fucking
So like
re-
it gets easier and easier, but like it seems that like also the double-edged sword with the internet is people like we've read and heard all the things over the last few years about like, you know, some people having a tough time and now I think in that narrative, what gets lost a lot of times is the fact that we have had explosive population growth and we still continue to have it, like on a large scale. And it hasn't, like, it's only been a short time with this growth. So, like, I think a lot of things just happen more on a more larger than they otherwise would scale enough to get seen. But there's such a large population. Do you know what I'm saying? But, like, still, generally, I would say the consensus is, right? Like, that as we've entered the internet age and as we continue to move forward, like people, I don't want to say suicide rates are getting higher, but like some people are having a hard time and some people get wrapped up in the internet and like get wrapped up in dumb stuff, you know, taking their own lives or
Do you think?
incels, whatever's going on with these crazy kids, you
Do you
know.
think with all the information that we're exposed to, since people are moving away from religion as a result, do you think there's something lacking there? Or what
And
I'm trying to
what?
say is there is a reason that people are religious, and I think it's greater than just community.
Yes.
I think it's greater than just
Sure.
friendship. There's something
Absolutely.
bigger there that they feel that they're a part
Fear of
of.
death just in general. You don't need religion for that.
It is somewhat that, but I don't think
You know
it's
what I'm saying?
entirely that. Um, but also, I mean, a secular belief does nothing to address the fear of death. If we're gonna go with that, because oh, Cyril's gone.
okay, fair enough.
Let's
But yeah,
see.
fear, death.
Oh, there it is.
I would be curious to
Do you
Yeah,
get what I'm
apologies.
saying?
go.
Though?
Yeah,
Like when you lose religion, I feel like there is something lacking, and that something lacking is why people turn to religion in the first place. So you can't like, what is that? How do you address that in a secular worldview?
see, I disagree with that. I think that people, in a lot of cases, also turn to it just due to tradition. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
but there's still the initial need to be religious. Even if a lot of people are just doing it because it's part of the tradition, there's a reason it started in the first place. And I don't think it was just about money or power or control. I think it was people who misunderstood the world around them and had very genuine fears and didn't know what all of it was for. You know what I mean? And that's that last part, the knowing what all of it's for, I think is something that when we move away from religion doesn't get properly addressed or even addressed at all in a secular worldview. It's why people are, I mean, because we're becoming more and more irreligious, but we're also becoming more and more, like Cyril said, it seems that there's more despair in general. And maybe that's just the internet putting a spotlight on something that isn't a growing problem. But that's the impression that I get.
Mm-hmm.
And I genuinely think it's because we're moving largely away from religion and we haven't really found a proper way to address those feelings. I don't know. But
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Well, I just think because I want to say that this narrative, and you can always tell me I'm wrong because that happens a lot. I want to
You're
say
wrong.
this narrative
You're
is
wrong.
tied to. Okay, and I'm done. I want to say this narrative is tied to the internet age, which would mean that like introducing the internet age did it. Religion was still there before and is still here now. Do you know what I'm saying?
We're
So
moving
I don't
away
know.
from it though. Have you seen the numbers of
But okay,
and
but why would
particularly
that? Just tell me why you think that would like make people more, prone to depression and.
what, moving away from religion? Well, again, I think that there's something about human nature that people need addressed, and that's why they utilize religion. And completely without religion, that sort of angst or whatever that is, I don't even know what to call it, just doesn't get addressed. Like there's so many things. I mean, like when people die that you love, religion goes, "Oh, you're going to see that person again." Well, that's a really comforting thing. Or like just being afraid of dying yourself. It's like, "Oh, well, there's more to it. There's more after it. That's not the final curtain, as it were." But with a secular worldview, none of that gets addressed. I mean, I guess it's all about death. I don't know.
Well, look, and once again, social media is
People are very self-aware. Maybe that's what
social
it is.
media,
We're
right?
more self-aware.
Social media is every part of the existence of humanity in every way. Meaning, like, everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame now because all they have to do is just start a Twitter and post stuff. And so we're gonna get every single kind of person, right? And the amount of people on this planet as well, with uncontrolled social media usage, like there's gonna be just a lot more exposure to everything, including like sad people and whatever, all these things. So it's not like it's like causing society to fall apart. Of course not.
I don't think it's causing society to fall apart.
No,
but
what? Literally, no.
I said I don't think that.
No, I know. I'm not trying to disparage you. I'm just trying to disparage that idea in general. Like, look out the
Right.
window.
Oh,
like,
right,
It's not
of
falling
course.
apart. Right.
But we are shifting, I feel like.
To falling apart?
Not to falling apart, but to a different sort of context to humanity. Because, like, when you go back 100 years, everybody was religious. And typically, everyone around you was of the same, or if not similar, belief.
So, do you think this is positive or negative?
Away from that legend. I think it's ultimately positive, but now it's negative.
Okay.
I think the transition has left a lot of people wanting, and there's just nothing.
Change sucks, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, hence these secular churches. There's something that these people found value in church.
Yeah.
They became irreligious, and they were like, well, fuck, I want that sort of thing. And then when they tried to recreate it just without God, they didn't know how to do it. I
have the perfect person to lead the world back to finding purpose in the modern age. His first name is Anti. His last name is Christ. Okay, he'll be here soon. Okay.
Oh no!
So just pulled out the biggest wrench he had and just threw it in there. Just threw it in the gears.
I mean, if we're being fair,
Mr. Christ,
yes.
The true savior of the world will be the Antichrist.
Will be the reincarnate Teddy Roosevelt.
AC. Excuse me?
Teddy Roosevelt.
No, I think it'll be. I think the savior of the world will be the reincarnate of Genghis Khan.
What?
Oh, Jesus. I don't understand that.
Why?
Just get rid of 25% of the population.
Right, yep.
We'll do some Thanos shit.
Some quarter Thanos, or half Thanos, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're looking for Thanos, but just a little less.
Just a taste.
Listen, Caleb, you know what that is, though? It's climate change, baby. That'll Thanos us right out. Really thin the herd.
I think that'll
really
make us go extinct, potentially.
Well, there is that. There is that possibility.
I mean, I still hold the belief that I know that you don't like. I still hold the belief that we'll science our way out of it, but by the time we do, we'll be down, to 10% left.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if we lost like 30% of the world before we figured it out. And that's a good chunk of people.
Just from flooding alone.
Yeah. Well, that in the whole Middle East.
Just from extreme
large
weather
parts
shift.
of Africa are totally uninhabitable anymore.
Look, if you're going to take anything, take Florida. We're okay with that, but let's not go too hard.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. If you
I don't
thought
need
Syria
any more
was a nightmare,
Florida, man.
If you thought the Syrian refugee crisis was a nightmare, get ready. Fucking get ready, because it could get that bad. But imagine that with like a quarter of the world population trying to uproot and move. It's gonna be a fucking
Right.
nightmare.
I gotta
and here's the thing. It's going to be more than that, I think, than a quarter. Right? How much of the world's population lives at or below sea level? Like current sea level. Okay, now raise that by 100 feet. Then what?
Yeah. Not 100 feet. That's a bit. But it is a...
You think that's a bit much?
100 feet?
Yeah.
I don't know if we have enough water in the world to raise the ocean 100 foot. 100 foot would be a bad day. If we went up 100 feet...
How high will oceans rise by 2050?
Do 2100. That one's better. This is a whole aside, by the way, just because Cyril threw Antichrist in there.
So
So yeah, go ahead,
he
Cyril.
will come, our fearless leader, Antichrist. So I wanted to ask if
Oh, 19.
if humanity was left to its devices and drove everything based off of want and consumerism and removed the barriers of like religion, like what does it look like in 100 years?
That's tough.
Here comes Comedy Cyril.
No,
sorry?
no. Excuse me.
What do you mean? Here comes comedy.
That's communism.
Oh,
What?
I thought you said comedy, Cyril.
Why is that?
Oh no,
communism?
comedy.
Why
It
is
was a
that-
very poorly done joke, Cyril.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? No, this is less about political philosophy and more about like
Personal philosophy.
No, it's not.
if left to
That's absolutely political.
what? No, listen, no, it's not. Just if left to like, basically the traditional moral boundaries of like religion. No, because that's dumb. Because they're just based off of early humanity morality, anyways. Never mind. Scratch that.
So you're saying
Continue.
if every need or want could be catered to in the future,
Yeah,
and
right.
we've
And,
become
like,
largely irreligious, what is that?
and
world
everyone
look
was
like?
comfortable with just like like prostitution's legal,
Sure.
gambling's legal.
Yeah, I mean, we would,
Things are legal.
we would probably be just a whole bunch of gluttonous people. We'd also
Wall-E.
probably hate ourselves.
Another Wall-E mention.
I mean, yeah, it's a possibility. See, this is the problem, right? Because when you have something that is religious in nature, it speaks to some greater thing about the universe that is 100% true, grounding, and it gives like sense to some of the chaos.
Right.
If you get rid of that and you're totally secular, you get to more or less create your worldview as you see fit. But it's also not, nothing's ultimate. There's nothing greater. There's no grounding measure. You know what I mean? So it would be up to individuals to inspire each other to things greater than themselves rather than having a dogma or a religion to do it. And that's tough because we're not very good at motivating ourselves. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, you're coming in heavy with the greater things greater than themselves.
That's the
I don't
key
know.
difference here, though. That's literally the key
Yeah.
difference. That's
Mm.
what
I
religion
think it's
is.
just figuring out how to develop a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Religion
That's
does it
what
for you. There you
we-
go.
It does. But for other people, right? People find that sense of purpose through work, through art, through a myriad of things,
Yeah.
whether it's running or
That's
achieving or just
Mhm.
talking,
And like,
right?
right.
I think the thing that I struggle with, right, is this idea that if we got to that level, right, everybody's like, oh, you'll just, we'll figure it out. Like or a lot of people will say to me like, oh, well, we're all just gonna become lazy. We'll become gluttonous. I don't see that being the thing. I think the first generation or two
fine.
will be fucked. Oh, I think they will be gluttonous. But then what they'll see is the amount of suicide and the no satisfaction, personal satisfaction of
No
like
fulfillment.
life in general. There's no fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the generation that comes after or the one after that will watch that firsthand and be like, oh, like I don't want to do that. You know, you're kind of seeing that play out right now when it comes to work. Like, look at your Gen X and baby boomers. Like, work is fucking life to them. Whereas you look at this next generation, our generation and the one after, their attitude towards work is very much like, no, no, no. Work is there so that I can have stuff to do what I want.
Right.
I'm not living for work, and that's a generality.
Disagree.
But
Disagree. There's both in both generations. There's all kinds. There's all
well,
kinds.
General
okay, but what
attitudes
I'm
are
saying is
different,
that
though.
Well,
generally
also, but you're also a
speaking, and when
product
you
of
look
your
at
environment.
studies,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
are.
Like,
That's right.
yeah.
You're right. I
So-
did throw in the caveat that I'm speaking in very general terms, but
Yeah.
there have been a lot of studies done, and I hear about it all the time because my wife is in HR. She knows and reads about these things and understands how to recruit and how to build or sell younger people on joining a company. It's you don't sell them on being able to work here for 30 years and be able to have a stable paycheck. You're selling them on, hey, look at the benefits that we can provide. Hey, look at the career path that you can take. Hey, look, you can work from home.
But there's no problem with that. But there's what's the problem with that?
It's
There's
not
nothing.
a problem.
I'm
It's
pointing
just a
out.
different source
I'm
of
pointing
motivation.
out. Right, I'm pointing out that we're watching right now 2-3 generations, seeing what the last generations did and choosing, generally speaking, to not live a life like that. And what I'm saying is that if we got to the point where you're talking about, Cyril, I think the first generation or two would be gluttonous and would do it poorly, and the following generations and thereafter would continue to learn and evolve and find ways to have a fulfilling life, even when all of your needs, generally speaking, can and are met. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I wish I was the generation.
I thought you were about to go
two
old man on
generations
us.
after. What do you mean?
Oh, just the general like, and now we got these generations that are good for nothing,
No, dude. I wish I was a part of those generations that are coming because I think that they're going to have life easier and they'll be able to do things that we would only dream of.
Right. Ball always moves forward every day, so life always gets progressively easier, no doubt. And I think that leaves its imprint on. That's why I said product of your environment. Also, student loans and what that causes as far as what cans get kicked down the road, and if certain cans get kicked down the road, then you're more open to want that free time outside of work if you don't have kids. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a lot more people taking a lot more time. I mean, including myself, obviously, to not settle down.
Well, millennials
And for whatever
in general
reason.
as well.
For whatever reason.
Just millennials in general, that's true.
Yeah, for whatever reason. There's a ton of reasons.
Especially when you look at the boomers versus the millennials. Boomers were married by 20, 21, most of them.
Yeah.
It's way later for millennials. It's the same thing with kids, and it's the same thing with buying houses. We're
Yeah, right. So there's a lot going on.
But to Cyril's point, that's also a product of your environment, right? Cyril, how many guys in the Army did you know that were married and divorced before they turned 25 and had 2 kids?
So and that's
to
what I was
Cyril's
about to say
point,
too.
there's also a level of environment.
You need to, there's
We're
a
just
level
talking about
of
general trends, and we know that
No,
for
I know.
millennials that is generally true. Yeah, it's just different. It's just a different setting. It's a different scenario. It's a different context to just being a human. Again,
Right.
I think that's what the whole problem with the secular church is they're looking for some driving force and some purpose, and they're trying to make a community out of it, and they just can't really figure it out. And I think we've been largely religious, most of humanity, for a very long time, and we're kind of like trying to figure out a self-driven, more purpose-orientated existence without religion now, and we're just not good at it. That's not to say that we can't get good at it, that we can't do it and it be even better than religion was for us, but at least we got rid of some of the dogma.
Yeah.
Again, I think we're just figuring it out. We just don't know what we're doing right now. Like
So now it
ultimately,
leads
it's
to the
good.
next
Listen,
question.
I am ready for the rapture on
Oh.
October 28th, 1992. Okay.
Right? Yeah. Let me pull that picture up.
I'm ready.
To me, the question now is, now that you and I and all of us have identified, right, some of the challenges, how do you today in your own personal life, how do you live your life in a way that you could do that, with the same situation?
I
Like, are
drink.
you actively, consciously, okay, that's fair. That seems like a degenerate thing to do, but
Yeah.
sure, to each
To
their
what?
own.
Go to a bar, you mean?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
just in general.
Oh. Yeah.
No, I
Like,
mean,
for me, like, some of the things that I try to do consciously is say,
somebody just crack a beer.
Those not me.
I'm 2 beers in.
Oh, nice. All right, go ahead.
How
Last
do
word.
you go about living your life in a way that you can find fulfillment outside of work, outside of like the very basic things? Do you consciously try to do that? Is
No,
that something that you
definitely
look to
not.
do?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
if I was a secular preacher, I would
Yeah.
say that's your homework for this week. When we come back next Wednesday, speak again for our Theodore
I think. Look,
Roosevelt
I also I
study,
think I'm
because
responsible
that's our
for
new
this.
Jesus. Sorry.
I'm responsible for this, and I think we all are responsible for this. I think it's easy. We all kind of. It's easier than ever to sit in our own quote unquote churches, basically, belief systems, because like I
Mhm.
watch YouTube videos all the time that. Now I try to watch a lot of things, but we always watch mostly our bias, no matter who we are. I try to watch more than most, but still, I watch a lot of stuff that I like and that are in my wheelhouse. So like, not church, but like you're feeding in your belief system, and it's easy to do that at home because it's just videos and it's just you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's a lot of times where
Kyle
I should have done
Kalinske.
social things, whether it's hang out with friends because I was invited, or this or that, that like I chose not to because I like stayed home and just like sat here and watched like YouTube videos. Now, granted, they're ones I enjoy, and I'd even argue a lot of the stuff that I watch is like people discussing or debating, and like it's fun to watch, and it almost like sharpens me at times if it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's still staying at home and like
Right.
not being out in the real world, and so I think that affects it a lot. It's real easy to because by the way, anything that you find online, you can find somewhere out there. I don't care where you are. You might have to drive a little bit to get there, but there's some club, there's some thing, there's some whatever if you want to stick your neck out. Like if you're a huge fan of Marianne Williamson, you can go fucking join her fucking whatever campaign HQ, the closest one. Do you guys know who Marianne Williamson is?
I do, yeah. She's interesting.
She's the kooky one. Yeah, she's the
She is
kooky one.
definitely interesting.
There's dark psychic forces.
What? I don't know that one. I'll have to look
And
that
they're
one up.
floating underneath the country.
What?
Did you not? You gotta
Yeah,
watch
she's
the
a strange
Democratic debates, Caleb.
Yeah.
Actually, just watch the highlights.
Just
of
Google,
her.
just Google Marianne Williamson. That's all you got to Google on YouTube. Or
She's-
no, YouTube it. YouTube search Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that'll come up is her being like,
Dark
"There's dark psychic forces." It's like fucking weird, dude. Now she's getting at like discrimination and like she's getting at things that like, okay, I'm listening, but then she uses verbiage that's like
She's
pseudo. I don't know, dude. Like you're
spiritual.
the same words that like the kookiest yoga instructor you've ever heard used. So
Right.
yeah.
Or a Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Deepak
Yeah.
Chopra.
You
I
guys
don't
know who
know.
that is?
No.
Do you really not? Oh. All right, so your homework
Maybe.
for
Maybe
next
I just
week,
don't. Yeah.
listen to some Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra. Let's wake up.
Deepak Choker.
Deepak Chopra.
Oh God.
How to
Is an
stress less.
Indian-born American author, public speaker, alternative medicine advocate, and a
Dude.
prominent figure in the New Age movement.
When he
What's
talks,
the New Age movement? Is that a rabbit hole? I'm not
He-
going down that rabbit
when
hole.
he talks,
Go
it's
down
like
it. Go down
New
it.
Age word salad. He talks in these weird, esoteric, like And he just reminds me of Marianne Williamson. She's obviously way more palatable than this guy, but still, it's just like the dark psychic energy.
If you push
bubbling
things
under the
that are
surface in this
questionable like
country.
this, and you live comfortably, let's say you build this big empire, but you only take a salary of like not that much money, right? Let's say it's like, oh, I only take a salary of like $400,000 a year. It's the most I've ever taken. And you're pushing like pseudo weird stuff, like, okay, like I really, that's fine. Like, because there is something to be
Is
said
it
about like
though?
people who feel better and how that affects them and their mentality. And like, I'm sensitive to that. No, hang on. But if you're in, because I'm saying this because it says this guy's wealthy, like straight up, like a lot. So,
Of
but
course he is.
if
He
you like
is.
milk it for every dime and you're like abusive with the finances and like even the people, because I don't know if you guys saw there was some Netflix documentary or Hulu that came out about some like yoga guru that it was actually abusing women over the years a lot and like covering it up.
Yeah, it
It's like,
sounds about right.
it's like I'm sure anything that me, you, or Caleb will do that's successful is just like through business or like just through like whatever, like things that are not like pseudo, right? Like working hard, moving up somewhere, whatever the heck it is. And like I don't have any issue like you're doing what you need, you're doing like stuff like that, you're doing what you can do, and like you pull down a nice salary, but like you're doing these pseudo things. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I ever like if a shred of me, and I feel like you guys feel the same way, if a shred of me ever felt like wanting to do anything pseudo, like there's no way I would bring attention to myself by just like it's just like seeing those old gangster movies where they're just like, don't spend the money, and then that one dude comes in with his wife in a fur coat and everyone's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why did you do
American Hustle.
whatever? I don't know. I think that's a scene from like
Yeah,
Godfather.
his wife. No,
American
that's
Hustle. That's
Denzel
fine.
Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like, hey,
Like,
I
dude,
don't
what the
buy
fuck?
nothing because I don't bring attention to myself. And his wife
Right.
bought him a real nice fur coat, and she convinced him to wear it. And they're like, who's this motherfucker with all this money wearing a fur coat at the front ring? He's got better seats than me, and I'm a known drug dealer. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
That was the premise behind it. That's when the cops were like, who's this guy? Because he's got better seats than me.
I don't know this movie. I don't know this movie at all.
Great movie.
What is it called? American Hustle?
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
pretty sure. I mean, come on, it's Denzel
Yo,
Washington.
hang on.
Yeah,
Hang
that's
on.
fair. That's fair.
Last thing, because I really want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Deepak Chopra
Yeah.
from his Twitter.
Deepak Choker.
Chopra. I'm sorry. All right, let's not be mean. I can't. But Deepak Chopra. I'm trying to say it right. Okay. I guess he's never gonna see this, but okay.
Sorry,
Look at this
Deepak.
tweet that he's probably a nice guy. Look at this tweet that I seen. 4 things I trust, and I'm gonna let you guess who he supports for president in 2020.
Oh no. Is it Marianne
ahead.
Williamson?
It is.
Nice.
4 things I trust Marianne Williamson will do as president. 1. Sign legislation removing dark money from politics. Vague verbiage
Interesting.
would
Yeah, what is
would
dark
like to see-
money? Okay.
Right, would like to see a little hardcore policy attached to that to make me feel better.
Mhm.
But like whatever. 2. Fight for children. Okay, that's okay.
fair. I think everyone's
3.
on board for that.
Create a Department of Peace. Interesting.
Oh no.
Need more detail, but don't know where that's headed. Need more detail. Come on, Department of
Need
Peace.
more-
It's like,
sure.
all right, but need more detail.
Yeah, but you could just
Department of
slap
Defense.
peace on anything.
All right, anyways. No,
Pass
you
peace
can't. That's why it's
legislation. What the fuck does that
that's
mean?
why it's probably dumb. That's why I'm going through
Right.
this.
Go ahead.
4. Bring reparations to fruition.
Yeah. She talks a lot about reparations, actually.
That's kind of like a ladder of like things that like all right, like dark money. We need money out of politics in some ways, like no doubt. We've talked about that here. Like, okay. And then fight for children, like, okay, like, all right. Like create a
Again,
Department of
pretty
Peace.
vague.
It's like create a Department of Peace, all of a sudden you're just like, are you like just being weird about this? Like, is this serious? And then all of a sudden it's bring reparations to fruition. You're like, okay. All right. That's we're done. We're done here.
Oh my god, that's great.
Alrighty.
It's official. We're reporting it here first. Deepak Chopra supports Marianne Williamson for president 2020.
Well, that's probably not surprising.
Wow, calling me surprised, brother.
Thanks for your time. Last thing, real quick. Mets were doing really well. They lost the Braves last night, but they're hanging in there, down 1-0 tonight. So hopefully they can come back. They're running out of time. They only have 2 more innings, but you know,
Nice.
They were on
We sh-
15-1 winning streak, weren't they? 15-1 or 15-2, something like that.
yeah, they were. They've won a lot in the last 25 games. They've won like 18 of 25. Is that McNeil? I
Yo,
thought
we
he was
should-
hurt.
Note.
No, it's
How
Steven
are we
Matz,
feeling
bro.
about the Bills?
I was just.
We already talked about this. End the pod.
I was gonna
In the
say
pod.
we should usually round the podcast out with
I looked
some
at the
little sports
schedule.
news. But yeah, so we're ending the pod. See you later.
All right,
Bye-bye.
fine. I looked at the schedule with a